Yeah, I'm just unpacking from the weekend trip I've been to. The plan was to play a couple of board games, so I brought them with me. However, it turned out otherwise. But now when I look at all those things which I haven't played for a long time, that really bring back some childhood memories. So especially this one, something I really played with my family. Maybe we should have a look into it, right? Yeah, that really brings up a lot of childhood memories. When my parents were still living, we put out some board games and played it with the whole family. So my parents, me, my brother, my sister, and it was either Spiel des Lebens, so the game of life, or from time to time, especially around Christmas, also Risk. However, if I now look at this board game, it's quite interesting in which direction this game goes, right? So you have to choose an education path, you have to get married, you have to earn decent money, and the winner is the guy with the most money. And it wasn't only that game that influenced me a lot. Also, my parents caused some severe scars on my soul, if you wish. As I'll talk about how I overcome those things, I think it makes sense to tell you a bit, maybe about the two most severe scars my parents left on me. And they were great people, don't get me wrong. My parents were great, loving people. They just couldn't help themselves because they had their own scars. But let me tell you a bit more about this after I've grabbed a cup of tea, I guess. I think that's a good idea. Right, so speaking of my childhood, one thing before I start. So I'm going to share some very personal things from my childhood, and I totally understand if you might feel uncomfortable listening to me telling you what happened there. So that's perfectly fine. You can easily skip this episode. But now let's dig into it, because as loving as my parents were, and they really tried to do their best, so I was their firstborn, they had no experience in how to raise kids, and they themselves were raised by parents who lived through World War II, which is a totally different time than it is nowadays. So I think it's important to get that into the right perspective. Nevertheless, the things my parents did wrong, and they did it wrong, even though if they didn't mean to, they affect me even nowadays, so it's not really gone. And let me share with you maybe the deepest scars, the deepest trauma I took away from my childhood, which really explains a bit my abandoning issues and or why I have had so much trouble in friendships, in relationships. My father was quite dominant, whenever I did something wrong, I really got a good beating. So he wasn't a bad guy. So I never received my beating out of the blue. I had to do something wrong, something forbidden, something I know wasn't okay. Nevertheless, the degree to which my father punished me, it's by all means not okay. So I was beaten with a shoe, with a coat hanger, with a belt, what have you, right? So, and yeah, he just lost it. So I never got severe injured. So do not be too afraid or too concerned. However, when my mom witnessed that, then she stood beside that and didn't know what to do. She wasn't strong enough to protect her child. So she stood there crying, begging my father to stop. She couldn't stop the man she loved from hurting the child she loved. So that was an impasse for her. And her solution was to come to me and ask me to behave well, so my dad hadn't to punish me. So what she did, because I was very young those days, between 3 and 4 when that started, she put all the responsibility for the harmony in the family on my shoulders. So what I learned from those days was that I need to function, that I need to fulfill expectations, to be loved, and to be part of a family. The other thing is, and that might be even worse, I must have been a year old, maybe 2, where my mother had some trouble in her marriage to my father, and yeah, she left the apartment and lived with her sisters, I guess, for a couple of weeks, and she gave me to my aunt, so my father's sister, to take care of me for that while until everything is sorted out. However, that was in the time where I really needed the bonding to my mother, which I couldn't get because she wasn't there. There was a day when my aunt called my mom and said, okay, you need to get your child back, you need to get your son back, because he's starting to call me mommy. So I, as a very little child, didn't know where I belong. Is it my aunt? Is it my mother? Who is it? Who am I bonding to? And what that caused, and that now makes sense since I've understood that really caused a fear, a primal fear of being left alone. And that's why it is so important for me to behave as good as I can to not being left behind. Yeah, basically, both of these traumas led to a position where I didn't dare to show my own expectations, where I didn't dare to show my own emotions, because as soon as they are were conflicting with someone else's expectations or emotions, I dialed mine back, because otherwise there was this enormous fear of being left behind. So yeah, that's why I am who I am. So I didn't allow myself my own true emotions. I was ashamed of them. Maybe I was afraid of them, because they might cause that I'm not loved, that I'm left behind. And yeah, as I said, that really impacted my adult life, the better part of my adult life. And that was quite a bummer when I realized that. You know, maybe I think we wrap it up here. So to end it on a positive note. So these behavioral patterns I developed, I'm currently trying to convert them into traits, into strength. There are some things I really like to take care of. For example, having a towel ready when I have a sleepover here, or maybe having a hairdryer when I have a sleepover here, or making sure that if we want to meet with a lot of people. Everyone knows when to be where. So these responsibilities make me also reliable, right? And that's a strength. I think the most important thing to overcome these behavioral patterns is that you realize when your inner child is jumping on the driver's seat. And then step back and say, okay, do I like the direction the little one is driving right now, or do I want to change it? So understanding your triggers and then taking a deliberate decision if you want to act that way or if you want to take another route. So I've listened to a funny comparison about trigger moments, and that was basically around what a trigger really is. So the trigger is that part of the weapon you squeeze to shoot someone, right? However, if the gun isn't loaded, you can pull the trigger all you want. There's no shot coming out. There's no explosion. There's no harm done. And that's what I'm currently working on. And I'll share the one or the other example or the one or the other perspective in this season of my vlogs. Maybe that's a bit more interesting than me just running around at beaches and telling random stuff. So even though it was a bit personal and even though it was a lot of talking, I hope you enjoyed this episode. So there are more to come. So stay curious and, more important, take care and stay safe. See you soon.